everyone, Tam's here. It's time for another Tea Chat Tuesday. I have to confess, I have already had my tea because this past week I received a ton of incoming mail, and thank you to everyone that sent the mail. I will insert a photo here. But a very lovely young letter writer sent me some English breakfast tea, which happens to be my favorite tea. And because of their age, I cannot mention their name or where they're from, but they probably, if they're watching this, they will recognize the tea bag. And thank you so much. And I will be responding to mail for the next few days. And but I do want to say thank you. I have quite a bit of replies to to work on. Last week was very busy for me. I knew it was going to be busy, but it was a ton of fun. First up, let me just tell you, I did do all my morning pages. I'm continuing to do the artist way. I am continuing to enjoy it. I also did a collaboration with an Orlando company called Mama Sauce. They did not ask me to wear this t-shirt or anything like that. They're not sponsoring this video, but they did give me this t-shirt, and I am very grateful to them because they reached out to me earlier this year and asked me to do a collaboration with them, and I'll insert some photos. But basically, I taught my normal mail art class for them during a day-long event that they had at a beautiful space in Tampa called the Oxford Exchange. And I was just more than flattered to be involved in this beautiful day. And I really enjoyed getting to meet all of the people at Mama Sauce. If you don't know about them, they are a letterpress and print company based out of Orlando. Very impressive young group of entrepreneurs or entrepreneur and young people that are really embracing their love of paper and analog. So if you are a paper geek like I am and you love your stationery, you might want to check them out. And I just had a blast, and I was very grateful to be involved in that. What else happened? Wow. I spent most of the evenings of each day last week getting ready for that workshop because, as you know, if you watched my video from last week, I did return from vacation last Tuesday and I had quite a bit of traveling challenges, but oh well, we got through it. The thing I wanted to talk about today is what has been getting my attention. As you know, if you are familiar with the Artist's Way and you're doing your morning pages and that sort of thing, we are to keep our minds open to the things that are calling us and drawing us in. And this week, I have really been attracted to my love of books. I have always loved books. I do have a personal library that I have been curating over the years, and I continue to curate it. I do go through spells of heavy reading, and sometimes I'll go through dry patches and I don't read anything. But for whatever reason, I have been paying attention to how I've been drawn back to my love of books. I have been watching some of my favorite booktube channels, and I've really been thinking about what makes a good bookstore or bookshop. One of the things that came up this week is how much I miss the good bookstores from where I grew up. I am not originally from Florida. I grew up in North Carolina, and all my family is scattered between Raleigh, North Carolina, and Richmond, Virginia. And for whatever reason, we always had good bookstores to go to, no matter how small the town. And I currently live in a city of over 100,000 people, and there are several nice colleges in this area, and for whatever reason we are unable to support what I would call a nice independent bookstore. Yes, we have one used bookstore that's very respectable and it's fine, And yes, we have a books of a million, but I do not consider that a good bookstore because over half of the store space is filled with toys and gadgets and a yogurt shop. And in my face, as I go into the doors, is the latest commercial fiction that I am not interested in. And I don't mean that to sound snobby at all, but I have been fortunate enough to visit several really good independent bookstores in my life, and I know that they are having a comeback. And I, for the life of me, can't get my head around why our community cannot support a really nice bookstore. Now, please keep in mind that I am living outside of Tampa in I guess they consider it like a bedroom community of Tampa. As you go into Tampa, yes, you will find some really cool bookstores, and then as you go on over to Clearwater, Florida, of course, and well, St. Pete, I guess, you will find some really cool bookstores. But I just don't understand why it doesn't extend out to my little community. My library is very nice, and I have a wonderful librarian that I am friends with and who will recommend amazing books to me. And so I'm just baffled why we can't have a really nice independent bookstore here in this area, this particular area that I live in. But I will try to keep my comments about that um, I'll just keep quiet about that because whenever I have brought it up in conversation, I am quickly judged sort of an elitist, and I do not agree with that at all. I don't think it's an elitist to desire to have a fun bookstore that has a little bit of mystery, has both used and new books, and and a staff that's not necessarily, they don't have to have a PhD in literature in my mind, but I do expect them to love reading and know the layout of their store. It's just very basic stuff. But yeah, I did want to talk about today, what do you think makes a really good bookstore? To me, again, I do think the staff plays a big part of it. As far as the space itself, I tend to like a mixture of new and used books, but that's your preference. And I'm going to insert in here a couple of photos of several of the bookstores that I have been able to visit, so that I think those of you that like stationery, this goes hand in hand with the love of stationery and putting pen to paper, and that's a love of the written word and a love of books and of reading. So I hope this doesn't catch too many people off guard, and I promise I'm not turning this into a booktube channel because I'm not, but occasionally I do like to talk about books. So like I said, my idea of the perfect bookstore is a combination of new and used books, a knowledgeable staff. Again, they don't have to be, have a master's degree in library science. I don't expect that. But it would be nice to have people talk to me about what I may already like, maybe recommend something new, maybe be familiar with some of the publishing houses. I really don't think that's asking a lot, but if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear from you. So feel free to leave comments below. I wanted to talk about this on YouTube because I rarely have the opportunity to discuss this in my circles. I'll just leave it at that. I also think a really cool bookstore should have a little mystery to it, a little coziness. I really don't care if the bookshelves are white or brown or dark or light, as long as they have a little mystery, a little winding here and there. And I know that's hard because store owners have to be able to see what's going on in their shop. Lighting is a huge key for me. I cannot stand the fluorescent lights in some of the bookstores. And in fact, if I spend more than 15 minutes in a Books a Million, I start to feel a little lightheaded and I get a headache. And I don't know why that is. I think it's because of the lighting and just the sensory overload that's happening in a lot of these so called bookstores that are really gift shops and things like that. Um, but yeah, I would love to know what you think about this. I'd love to start a conversation on this. I know that there are cities across the United States that are supporting independent bookstores. I know there's been a resurgence in many independent bookstores. I know we saw a lot of closing of big box bookstores. In fact, the Barnes and Nobles here in my area closed down several years ago. But I'm also seeing a lot of evidence and stories about certain areas that are able to support independent bookstores. And I'm just curious what really makes for a community that can support a good independent bookstore, because I would like to push those qualities if I can. I don't want to open necessarily an independent bookstore in my community because I'm too busy for that. But I'd love to be able to support, and I'd love to be able to somehow show someone that's interested in that they can bring an independent bookstore to our area. So that's my ramble for today. My find for you is a podcast. One of the things I miss about going to a very good bookstore is being able to ask someone, what should I read next? And there happens to be a really good podcast called What Should I Read Next? And I love it. I love listening to it. And the young lady that hosts that, she asked her guests to tell her the books they love and the books they hate, and she gives them recommendations, and it's very interesting. So I will link it below. And that is the end of my conversation for this Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be back to probably talking about paper and stationery and pens and ink next week, but I did want to throw some book talk in here because I think it goes hand in hand, and it's me. Um, if you are interested in seeing my little personal library and book collection, I'll be happy to share a little more about that. I love my library. It also serves as my writing room, and that's where my fancy letter writing desk is. And yeah, I'd like to know your thoughts on that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.